When you become a professional wrestler, you naturally have to be a pretty tough SOB. Throwing yourself at the ground every night combined with physical training and traveling from town to town is not for the faint of heart. While outside of the ring a majority of wrestlers are just everyday people, some have developed a reputation of being individuals who you don't want to cross in a shoot way, brother. This is Extreme League Wrestling, and in no particular order, here are our 10 most dangerous pro wrestlers in history. Haku. Haku as our first entry on this list might seem a bit odd. Father to the Gorillas of Destiny and Hikuleo in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Many have told notable stories about how the king is a kind soul and a loving father. But for every one of those stories, there's 5 more of him beating the hell out of the people who crossed him. For example, this man did not waste a second in rearranging a man's face. Literally. The story goes like this. In 1989, after an altercation with a man at the airport bar in Baltimore, Maryland, he literally bit the guy's nose off. Haku did this after the man repeatedly mocked pro wrestling and called it the dreaded F word. After he asked him and his travel buddies if they were some of those fake TV wrestlers, he replied saying, "Yeah, let me show you," and then leaned in to ensure that this man can never rock another pair of Ray-Bans again. More stories told by Haku's colleagues like Kevin Sullivan and Bobby Heenan range from bar fights to pulling a man's teeth out with his bare hands. Again, outside of these encounters, Haku seems like a sweetheart, but most definitely the Islander is not a man you want to cross. Big Van Vader. Even before his time in WCW in Japan, Big Van Vader had toughness running through his veins. In college, Vader actually had football aspirations and was a lineman for the University of Colorado football team from 1973 to 1977. Afterwards, he was able to make it to an NFL roster and was able to play in Super Bowl 14. Once retired from playing professional American football, he decided to pick up professional wrestling. During an international tour for the WWE, he and The Undertaker were guests on the morning show Good Morning Kuwait. And here, unfortunately, is where the word fake comes back into play. During the morning show, the host inquisitively asked about wrestling being predetermined. Taker, while annoyed for his credit as champion, had a calm and collected answer. Vader's response wasn't so kind. "Look at this 270-pound, 6'3" man. What part of this looks fake?" Vader also apparently wanted to know the answer to this question for himself, flipping over the table on the set, grabbing the host by the necktie, and asking him if it felt fake. Kuwait authorities did not take too kindly to this act, and Vader was arrested and later detained for 2 weeks. He would only be charged with paying a $164 fine, and would later go on the defense stating that he and the producers on the show staged the segment. I don't know, Big Van Vader. Felt pretty real to me just through the screen. Ronda Rousey. Being the baddest woman on the planet, I don't think it's crazy to say that Ronda Rousey was women's martial arts for the better part of a decade. A megastar in and outside of the octagon even before her WWE debut, the judo Olympian fit right into her new home after retiring from the UFC. The first women's champion left the sport with a record of 12-2. Since the start of her pro wrestling career, she has kept her star power and representation alive by taking every single woman to their limit. You don't get to simply main event WrestleMania without the credentials to back it up, and Ronda has this in spades. A trailblazer in every sense of the word, Ronda has deserved every single bit of her success. Many of you may have noticed in the past months I started wearing my own ELW hat. One reason is because I'm currently growing out my hair and I kind of look like Toad from all the Mario games. But a second reason is that through much planning, we are happy to announce ELW merch. So if you're interested in having your own ELW dad hat or beanie, go ahead and hit the products in the video description down below and buy yours today. It's a super great way to help out the channel, and keep an eye out for Black Friday, cause there may or may not be some new stuff dropping then. Anyway, back to the video. Bad News Brown. Alan Coage, better known to wrestling fans as Bad News Brown, had a very successful judo career before entering the professional wrestling business, even winning a bronze medal in the 1976 Summer Olympics, while also picking up gold in the 1967 and 1975 Pan American Games. Brown most definitely knew his way around a brawl. This made him a perfect fit for companies like WCW and New Japan Pro Wrestling once he retired from professional judo. The Canadian was not afraid to step up, and the moment came when he entered the WWF where he had to stand up to the biggest dog in the fight, Andre the Giant. Andre had apparently made some racial comments towards Bad News. According to Chris Jericho, a friend and former mentee of Brown, recalled that Brown didn't even have to lay a finger on the Giant, getting in his face and making threats until he apologized. Sure, the man had the physical skills to take down the Giant. It most certainly takes a lot of toughness for anyone to see an over 7 foot, 500 pound plus Giant and not even flinch and not even get physical in order for him to back down. Bobby Lashley. A former WWE and TNA champion, Bobby Lashley has more than proven himself within the squared circle. While with the former company prior to his return to the big dub, Lashley decided to try his hand at MMA. During his time in the sport, the former Army drill sergeant and Olympic wrestler showed that he was a triple threat in all combat sports. His days in competing in the octagon are more than likely behind him, but Lashley's current record stands at 15-2. An insane feat for any fighter. Can you believe he is as dangerous in the ring as he is handsome? Dan Severn. Debuting during the WWF's height of popularity of the Attitude Era, Severn brought a different flavor to the roster at the time. A no-nonsense technical wrestler, he has easily earned his nickname, The Beast. A multi-wrestling gold medalist, Severn, like many others on this list, has competed in the world of mixed martial arts. Being the first ever Triple Crown champion in the early stages of the UFC, his fight record is what many would call video game numbers. You're not going to believe it when I say it, so go ahead and pause the video and look it up if you want. He is 101, 19, and 7 in professional fights. When entering the WWF, this wasn't a case of a professional MMA star transitioning into the world of professional wrestling post-retirement. Severn was actually still actively fighting while competing for the likes of NWA and WWF, and didn't retire from the world of MMA until 2013. The Beast was so damn good at combat sports, his close personal friend Jim Cornette even had this quote, stating, "He has so many titles he has to keep some of them at home, because he can't take all of them to the airport. I already hate bringing a stick of gum through TSA, I couldn't imagine bringing that many world titles." I could spend this entire video talking about his credentials alone, but let's just say he's the definition of Samuel L. Jackson's wallet from Pulp Fiction. Kurt Angle. I don't know if this is commonly known throughout the world of wrestling, but a fun little bit about Kurt Angle's career is that he won a gold medal with a broken frickin' neck. Angle's use of what he learned on the Olympic stage made him perfect for WWF, and it also tends to help when you have charisma pouring out of your ears. With his knowledge of legit ways to bend and break a person's body, Angle has never truly had to unleash his mat knowledge on too many shoot interactions. One highlight of his mental toughness, though, has to be from the first season of Tough Enough, where Kurt Angle called out anyone to step up to the Olympic hero for a shoot wrestling match. Daniel Puder decided to take a shot at Angle, but both men were under the understanding that Kurt was recovering from yet another neck surgery. Puder then felt it necessary to put the Olympic hero in a legitimate armbar, which Kurt was none too happy about. Luckily, through all of this, he had the mental toughness and wherewithal to pin Puder's shoulders to the mat in order for the ref to count to 3 and for the hold to be released. With how much Kurt was respected backstage, Daniel was most definitely going to get a receipt for this. Later on at the Royal Rumble, a few legends that were still active on the roster took it into their own hands, showing how much Angle was truly respected for his toughness and how much Puder had rubbed people the wrong way. If you're interested in learning more about Kurt Angle, I highly recommend his documentary on Peacock that WWE put together. The man has been through so much, it's amazing he is where he is now, and you know what, Kurt Angle, you are my Olympic hero. Ken Shamrock. You don't earn the nickname the world's most dangerous man just because. Shamrock wholeheartedly embodies everything the WWE built him as. Not only the first ever UFC Super Fight champion, Ken was legit rivals with Dan Severn in both men's time in the company, as well as MMA legend Royce Gracie. He has even stepped into the octagon with murder grandpa himself, Minoru Suzuki. Holding a professional fighting record of 47 wins to 28 losses, Shamrock's longevity in wrestling is no doubt due to his toughness. The TNA and UFC Hall of Famer was active in professional wrestling until 2021, and I'm sure he could still go just as much today as he did in the early days of the UFC. Brock Lesnar. The Beast Incarnate is more than likely a modern fan's perfect image of a dangerous man. Believe it or not though, at one point, Brock was an unproven prospect with no ceiling to his potential. After trying to make a squad in the NFL, Lesnar decided to try his hand at mixed martial arts. Many questioned his decision, given that during this time public discourse was not in the former WWE champion's favor. Once he stepped into the octagon though, those worries were quickly put away, much like Lesnar was putting away opponents. To age myself here, this is the version of Brock Lesnar that I can first remember. This is the version that I saw put on heavyweight fight classics with the likes of Frank Mir, Randy Couture, and Cain Velasquez. The one that upon upon his WWE return, I got in trouble with my parents for yelling at the top of my lungs, "Cena, get your ass out of there! You gonna die!" Brock is legitimately one of the toughest and most dangerous men in the world of combat sports, but this combined with his ruthless toughness in business negotiations truly makes him a trailblazer. To be able to be such a big main event draw while not putting your body through torment every other day on house shows and weekly TV, that is toughness right there. New Jack. A majority of this list has been individuals who were dangerous within the domination they showed during their time in the combat sports world, or in general having a tough guy reputation. But New Jack was a different breed of dangerous as a whole. Prone to fits of violence and the shortest temper imaginable, Jerome Young had no shortage of stories where he took liberties with his opponents in the ring. From the bloody assault of a 17-year-old at the ECW mass transit incident, to the mauling of 69-year-old Gypsy Joe, and not to also mention he literally tried to paralyze Vic Grimes. These are just some of the most infamous outbursts that scratch the surface of New Jack's natural brutality. The Man's Dark Side of the Ring episode, completed shortly before his passing, dived deeper into his history. Did not necessarily grow up in the best environment. Along with his siblings, Jerome witnessed brutal domestic violence between his father and his mother. Jerome's streak of violence in some part can be blamed on his upbringing. Trauma is something that the man was in no short supply of. Even through this history, you can see many still love the man after the outpouring of support that was seen after his passing. Regardless of all shared, New Jack is still loved by many and will truly be missed. And that is our list for the 10 most dangerous wrestlers in history. Who do you think is the most dangerous wrestler in history? Let us know in the comments down below. Don't forget to go ahead and suplex that like button because it really helps us in the YouTube algorithm. This has been Extreme League Wrestling, and we'll catch you next time.